You wouldn't smell it. You wouldn't see it. And by the time you started feeling sick, it could already be too late to walk yourself outside. That's what carbon monoxide from a generator does inside a home after a power outage. Public health data consistently ranks it among the leading preventable causes of injury and death in the days following a major storm. There's a specific number that decides whether a generator running outside your home is actually safe or quietly filling your house with a lethal gas anyway. The distance between that generator and your nearest window or door. Almost nobody checks that number in the middle of an actual emergency. We'll get to exactly why it matters in a few minutes. Every one of these takes real time to research and get right. If it helped, subscribing to the Independence Files is the one thing that tells me it's worth making the next one. Carbon monoxide poisoning deaths spike predictably every time a major storm knocks out power to a large area, tracked consistently by public health agencies year after year. The pattern is always the same. People run a generator too close to the house, in a garage with the door partly open, or indoors entirely, trying to stay warm or keep food cold, with no idea the exhaust is building up to dangerous levels inside their own home. This isn't a rare, freak occurrence limited to unusual circumstances. It's a documented, recurring pattern that repeats after essentially every major regional outage, whether from a hurricane, an ice storm, or a widespread grid failure. Public health tracking consistently identifies the same root cause across these separate events. A generator placed too close, running for hours while people focus entirely on staying warm or keeping essentials running. The financial cost here is almost irrelevant compared to the actual stakes, but it's worth naming anyway. Emergency room visits and hospitalizations for carbon monoxide exposure routinely run into thousands of dollars, on top of a health event that can cause lasting damage or death, all from a risk that's almost entirely preventable with equipment costing a small fraction of that. Here's what makes this risk especially dangerous. Carbon monoxide is completely colorless and odorless. There's no smell warning anyone before it reaches dangerous concentrations, no visible haze, nothing that triggers a natural human instinct to leave the area. By the time symptoms appear, such as headache, dizziness, and confusion, victims are often already too impaired to recognize what's happening or get themselves to safety. So here's the real question worth asking. If a gas gives absolutely no sensory warning before it becomes dangerous, how is anyone supposed to know they're in danger at all without a device specifically built to detect what human senses simply cannot? Think of it like carbon dioxide filling a sealed room during a fire. You don't see it, smell it, or feel it building up, and by the time it's affecting you, it's already too late to simply notice and walk away. A smoke detector exists because smoke alone doesn't always wake someone in time. A carbon monoxide detector exists for an even more urgent reason. There's no sensory cue at all, ever, that reliably warns a person in time on their own. Mechanically, most affordable carbon monoxide detectors use an electrochemical sensor, a small cell that reacts specifically to carbon monoxide molecules, producing a measurable electrical signal proportional to concentration in the air. Once that concentration crosses a threshold known to be dangerous, the alarm sounds immediately, giving occupants a warning no human sense could provide on its own. This isn't new safety technology. Carbon monoxide detection has been standard equipment in industrial settings, mines, boiler rooms, and any enclosed space with combustion engines or equipment for generations, specifically because industrial workers learned the hard way, repeatedly, that this particular gas kills without warning. The same electrochemical sensing principle protecting industrial workers for decades is what's inside an affordable home detector today. Mining safety history in particular is filled with hard lessons about undetectable gases. Canaries were famously used in coal mines precisely because no human sense could reliably detect dangerous gas buildup before it was too late, and a small, sensitive animal reacting first gave miners a warning their own senses couldn't provide. Modern electrochemical sensors are, in a real sense, the engineered replacement for that same basic need, something more sensitive than human senses, standing watch continuously. What changed to bring this protection into ordinary homes wasn't a new discovery about the danger. The danger has been understood for a very long time. What changed is that sensor manufacturing became cheap enough to put this protection in every home for a small fraction of what it once cost industrial facilities to install similar monitoring. Public health and safety organizations publish clear, specific guidance on generator placement, minimum distances from windows, doors, and vents, based directly on how carbon monoxide accumulates and disperses around a running engine. That guidance isn't a vague suggestion. It's built from documented incident data showing exactly how close is too close. Households that experienced a real carbon monoxide scare during a past outage, caught early specifically because a detector sounded in time, consistently described the same pattern. No other warning sign existed before the alarm, and without it, they wouldn't have known anything was wrong until symptoms were already setting in. 3 separate threads pointing the same direction. Decades of industrial safety precedent treating this gas as a serious, undetectable hazard, specific public health guidance built from real incident data, and consistent testimony from households whose only warning came from a working detector. That's convergent evidence for something with genuinely fatal stakes. It's worth being precise about what varies here. Exact danger distance depends on wind conditions, generator exhaust output, and specific home layout. There's no single universal safe distance that applies identically to every situation. What's consistent is that carbon monoxide accumulates fastest in enclosed or partially enclosed spaces, and that no amount of distance fully substitutes for having a working detector as a backup. Keep that placement distance from the start of this video in mind. It's coming back in a few minutes as the single number that matters most here. So if this risk is well understood, why do generator-related carbon monoxide deaths keep happening every single time there's a major outage? It comes down to the exact conditions that make this risk hardest to manage. Outages happen during storms, when people are stressed, often in the dark, focused entirely on staying warm or keeping essentials running, not on carefully calculating exhaust dispersion patterns. Safety guidance that's easy to follow calmly in a manual becomes far easier to overlook in the middle of an actual emergency. There's a simpler reason underneath that, too. Generators are sold as a solution to the outage itself. With safety warnings typically limited to a sticker or a page in a manual, most owners never read closely. There's no active reminder system built into the generator that stops someone from placing it too close to a window during an actual crisis. As for what this actually involves, a basic battery-powered carbon monoxide detector using a standard electrochemical sensor typically costs around $15 for a simple standalone unit. It runs independently of household power, specifically so it keeps working during the exact power outage scenario when generator-related carbon monoxide risk is highest. The mechanism mirrors the same industrial detection principle used for decades. Continuous electrochemical monitoring of ambient air, triggering an immediate, loud alarm the instant concentration crosses a dangerous threshold, giving occupants a warning that exists specifically because human senses cannot detect this particular gas on their own under any circumstances. Now, back to the number I mentioned at the start, generator placement distance. Public safety guidance generally recommends running a portable generator at least 20 feet from any window, door, or vent, positioned so exhaust doesn't have a direct path toward the home regardless of wind direction. That number isn't arbitrary. It's based on how quickly carbon monoxide concentration can build to dangerous levels in the air immediately surrounding a running generator's exhaust. There are honest limitations worth being upfront about here. A detector is a warning system, not a substitute for correct generator placement in the first place, because the safest approach combines both, not one instead of the other. A detector sounding after concentration has already risen significantly, still requires immediate action. It isn't a passive safeguard that solves the problem on its own. Battery-powered detectors also need periodic battery checks, like any battery-powered safety device, because a detector with a dead battery provides exactly the same protection as no detector at all, which is to say none, at precisely the moment it might matter most. Placement of the detector itself matters too. A single detector covers the room it's in effectively, but a larger home running a generator near multiple entry points may benefit from more than one unit, positioned in sleeping areas specifically, since detecting a dangerous buildup while everyone's awake is far more useful than one that only gets noticed after everyone's already asleep. This isn't a substitute for basic generator safety practices, proper placement, never running one indoors or in a garage, even with the door open, and never using one to heat an enclosed space. It's a backup layer of protection, not a replacement for doing those things correctly in the first place, which loops back to where this started. The same electrochemical detection principle that protects against generator exhaust applies just as directly to any combustion appliance used during an outage, a propane heater, a camp stove used indoors, anything burning fuel in a space that isn't perfectly ventilated. A storm knocking out the power is dangerous in obvious ways everyone already prepares for. The danger that actually kills people afterward is often invisible, odorless, and completely preventable with $15 of equipment most households don't have. If you've had a close call with this before, or you're not sure your own generator setup follows safe placement distances, drop it in the comments below. I read all of them, and I'll do my best to help you figure it out.